Okay, this video is Who Will Survive the Winter? The Vegan Prophet Predicts the Future. So first of all, when you have a centralized food supply, that's more dangerous because it's harder to distribute food widely to the masses. And we're kind of headed in that direction. And my background comes from, my father's from Ireland, my mother's from Puerto Rico, but the benefit here is that I've studied a lot about the Irish Famine. And I think that the USA is headed into something like the Irish Famine. And here's the reason why. We largely are dependent on monocrops. Largely this GMO corn and soy with these herbicides, and the weeds are becoming more and more resistant to these herbicides. The crop yields are down lower. The weather has been quite bad this year. In addition, there was the train tip over episodes like, an OHIO, where that contaminated the river water, which is used to irrigate the crops. And that's not the only train. There were several other similar train episodes. There's been several food processing plants that have had fires. That together with the bad weather and all the air pollution, crop yields are down. Okay. In the Irish potato famine, what happened was they had largely a monocrop of potatoes, and the British Protestants owned most of the land, and they owned, even if they didn't own the land, they would often own the rents on the houses of the Irish. And so when the Irish couldn't pay their rent to the British landlords, they were not very nice to them. They evicted them from their homes, and then they would burn the homes down and turn the land into cattle pasture. So the Irish would have nowhere to return to. They really didn't have a lot of choices. Over 1 million of them starved to death. Other ones went to workhouses where they would do some manual labor in exchange for, they're like a homeless shelter, in exchange for some food and a place to sleep. But they were really very overcrowded. Many emigrated, of course, to the USA, to Australia, to Canada, to New Zealand. But nowadays, there's not a great place to go to. It used to be the USA was a great place to go to, and now the USA has a lot of problems. Okay, a lot of people are unemployed. All that stuff like with, Ford and Bud and all that, that has led to lots of Americans being unemployed. Simultaneously, food and gas prices are going up. So that's not a great situation. So this winter, there is a high risk of food shortages. And so it would be a good idea to make friends with a farmer. There are farmers who, maybe they'll give you a job. Maybe you can work out some way that you can do something helpful for them. It'd be a good idea to make friends with farmers. It would be a good idea to learn how to grow crops. As far as Irish history, this book, Trinity, is a very interesting book, follows families over the generations, quite well written. My favorite Irish history book, that I've read a whole bunch of them, is this one, Irish Ways by Ron Kavana. And the reason I love this book is because he's a musician, and he sings all these songs that correspond to different times in Irish history, including the times of the potato famine. And that's where you really get the feel for Ireland's history. That's the best one, okay? He's like talking to one of my uncles or my grandfather with music in the background, okay? It's a great insight into Ireland. Okay, so anyways, what else could be a smart thing to do? 1 acre of potatoes can feed a family of 5. That's what they claim. It sounds like a little bit of an exaggeration, but that's been claimed. Potatoes are a very resilient food. They can grow in their lousy conditions. It's good to be in the south. The more closer you are to the equator, the more sunshine there is, the easier it is to grow food. The old American way of having family farms was good. If you read about history, whenever there's upheavals, the family farms were much better off. And that would include, all through going back to history since, the days of ancient Rome, the rural family farms were much better off than all the people in the city areas. Okay, if you're in the city, you lose your job, you don't have any money, you're screwed, okay? If you're on a family farm, you're growing food, okay? If you live with extended families, you can all help each other. Okay, there's places that have courses here. I'll look at some of the other slides to show some of this stuff. During World War I, they called them victory gardens, the spirit of 1918, and people grew their food. They did the same thing in World War II. They called them, victory gardens, and basically people grow their own food. They started You know, they were raising chickens. Of course, you know, we promote the vegan diet here, but, you know, if you're starving, I don't recommend eating chicken ever, except if you're starving. Then it's a good idea. It's better than starving, okay? Dairy, growing crops. So this has, you know, been well known, this idea, for a long time. And then I previously gave a lecture about this painting, American Gothic. You know, could this be your future? You know, kids in school nowadays, you know, they don't learn anything, okay? They don't learn how, you know, they should learn how to grow food, how to purify water. Those are useful skills. How to change the oil in a car, okay? That would be useful to them. Memorizing some vocabulary words for a Scantron test, that is not very useful. Anyways, that's the American Gothic is the name of that painting. It came about because the painter Grant Wood thought that vertical Gothic window was kind of funny for a one-story farmhouse. Okay, so... All right, this is from the website called Wonderium, which is really related to thegreatcourses.com, and they make a whole bunch of primarily college-level courses, but also, you know, for hobbyists and personal interest, things like how to grow food. And they've got several different courses on how to grow food, so you might want to look into that. Okay, this is an advertisement for one of these homegrown kits growing food indoors. So if you live somewhere where you got enough sunshine, you might want to look into some of this sort of stuff. So anyways, that's about all I've got. I hope that was helpful for you, and these are some things to do. So make friends with a farmer, learn how to grow food, and hopefully you'll have a good winter.